Good morning, everyone. Nice to see everyone online this morning. Welcome to another edition of Facebook Live Education from Alzheimer's Orange County. My name is Melissa Klabe. I'm the Director of Education at Alzheimer's Orange County, and it's my pleasure to be joined this morning by Kim Bailey, our Programs and Education Specialist. Hi, Kim.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Melissa.
Good morning. And I want to take a second to thank our sponsor, our wonderful community partner, Villaggio at Capriana. Capriana is an exclusive Oakmont senior living community located in Brea. It's a beautiful, one-of-a-kind continuing care retirement community with full amenities. And we do encourage you to visit their website, oakmontofcapriana.com, if you're interested in learning more. And again, we are so grateful for their support, and that enables us to be here with you this morning. And actually, they've been our sponsor this whole month for our Facebook Live series. And so
absolutely,
if this were in the before coronavirus times, we'd be at their facility delivering this presentation today. But at least we're thankful for technology that enables us to carry on and to adapt and to do what we can. So as we've all been weathering this time of sheltering in place, we know now more than ever the importance of finding ways to engage with our loved ones and find meaningful activities to do at home, especially with our loved ones with memory changes or cognitive changes. And so that's what Kim and I will be talking about this morning. And it's a topic I know we both are very passionate about. We love activities. We love finding ways to engage our loved ones. And so let's get into it.
Right.
So Kim, before we talk about, and we have tons of examples to share today, but I think it's important that we first talk about what is an activity and why are they so important and what makes an activity a good one. So do you want to start us off by talking about that?
Yeah. I think that when we're talking to our family caregivers, sometimes they get a little bit worried about activities because they think that they have to be something that's really fancy or something complex. And really, activities can be any opportunity to engage with our loved ones and really have a connection. So it's the connection that we're looking for. And so an activity occurs even when we're doing personal care, for example. That's an opportunity to really have a strong connection with our loved ones. Don't you agree, Melissa?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And when I began to reframe, we'll talk about personal care a little bit in daily activities, but just since you said that, when I began to see things like personal care as activities rather than something I needed to rush through to then get to an activity that we would do together, it completely changed my mindset. And that didn't happen overnight, but I know that was a really important turning point for me to say, oh, this is actually, if I reframe this and slow down a little bit, this is actually good quality time that we can spend together. And it made those activities a lot more enjoyable for both of us rather than rushing through them to get to something else.
Right. And so today we'll talk about all kinds of activities that, really are pretty simple in nature, and they really reflect the person's values, the things they like to do, the things that just make them happy and content. And so if you're worried that you're not an activities director or a camp counselor or a cheerleader, this is the course for you because, a lot of the things we'll talk about are real simple and easy to do at home. And that's what we're after today, just ways to keep people engaged, because we know that a lot of you out there are used to having your loved one maybe in an adult day services program. You're used to being out, able to get out and do social activities, maybe even here at Alzheimer's Orange County. And so being cooped up 24/7 is a challenge. So we want to try to make that a little easier for you today. So let's get into it.
Absolutely. All right. So let's start off by talking about how do we engage the whole person in activity, and why is that an important thing to focus on when we're thinking about activities?
Absolutely. So we're going for a holistic approach, and that means, sort of that mind, body, soul connection. So whether we do things that are physical in nature to whatever extent the person's able to engage, we may try to appeal to them on an emotional level. We can do cognitive things with them depending on what stage of the illness they're in, or appeal to them spiritually, and all of these, sort of dimensions depend on you knowing the person really well, right, Melissa?
Absolutely. That's the number one rule, I think.
Yeah. So what we're talking about here is really a person-centered approach, I think. Yeah. So maybe we should put a little shape to that.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about what it means to have something be person-centered.
Yeah. So when we think about the people that we're caring for, sometimes it's easy to get kind of stuck in the moment and just think about them in terms of their illness and where they are now in their illness. But we really want, especially when we're talking about things that we want to do with them, activities, etc., we want to consider that person's whole life spectrum and who they are as a person, who they were, what they did for a living, their their likes, their dislikes, the things that bring them comfort, things that bring them a sense of belonging. Take that whole person into our way of thinking about our activities and their day-to-day life. So those activities really need to, focus in on who they are and the things that bring them that sense of self-esteem and that belonging and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's easy because, like today, we have a long list of activities, and you can go online and find lists of hundreds of things to do with your loved one. And I think that's a great place to start. But we know our loved ones best, and we know that not all of those activities might not be a good fit for them, right? I think one of the things that I read recently that kind of drove this home was, and it was talking more about continuing care or care communities. And if you look at the activity list for that care community and another care community, you shouldn't just be able to interchange them, because those activities should really be suited to the residents and the family members that live there. And so we really want to make an effort to make sure that what we're trying to do with our loved ones is, like you said, it doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to be a good fit. It has to be something that they find either meaning or joy or some sort of fulfillment in.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And when people are doing person-centered care, and when they're planning person-centered activities, the goal then is to bring that person, that their loved one, to a state of contented involvement. And that sounds kind of like a fancy term, but all that really means is that when a person's in a state of contented involvement, they're in that zone. And really, when we think about people with dementia, the enemies that we're fighting with dementia care is overstimulation and understimulation. Either of those states can produce agitation and restlessness and problem behaviors. And what activities are really the antidote to problem behaviors. And so when someone's starting to get overstimulated or restless or agitated, and we can come in there and, with a short list of activities that produce this balance, then sometimes that's the skillful way that we can distract and redirect a person into this state of contented involvement. So contented involvement really describes an emotional state where that person is really engaged in a meaningful, activity, and they're in their comfort zone. Mm-hmm. I'm making this harder than it has to be. They're in their comfort zone. I love it. Yeah.
That's great. That's perfect. Yeah. Perfect description.
Yeah.
So we have a list here. And I know the slides might be kind of hard for some of you to see, especially if you're watching on your phone. We encourage you, if you do want a copy of our slides, you can go ahead and email learn, like LEARN, at alzoc.org. You can get copies of our slides for any of our Facebook Live presentations. We would love to share that with you, so that you can have that and share it with family members. We also encourage you to join in today. The reason we like doing these things over Facebook Live is for that back and forth. We want to hear from you, comments, things that you're doing at home, questions that you have, or just say hi, let us know you're there, give us a thumbs up. So getting back to contented involvement, though, we have a list here of contented involvement activities, but really we know that anything can be an activity that brings about contented involvement. But I like this list here that we have, because they're kind of like peaceful things that I want to do all of these right now.
Sure. I mean, photos are always fun. Looking at photos together. I cared for a friend with dementia for 6 years, and I think we looked at photos pretty much every day. And my friend was, she passed away last year at the age of 94. And I really, had the privilege and honor of taking her pretty much all the way through the disease. And I have to tell you that by the end of the disease, she didn't even recognize the people in the pictures anymore. In fact, she thought they were my pictures. So she would say, "Oh my gosh, you have so many people in your family."
Look at
But
that beautiful
yeah,
thing.
isn't it great? But I mean, every day we looked at pictures, and she, tended to get restless during the sundowning period, that time of the day, late in the
Mhm.
afternoon. She'd want to be up and down, and, so thought she needed to go somewhere. And so, frankly, I just, chose that time of the day to sort of give her all these photos to look at. And every day she'd say, "Oh my gosh, look at all these pictures." And I mean, we spent an hour every day looking at photos. And so photo books are great. Having some coffee together, just a social time or a cup of tea. Just sitting outside on the patio, which of course everybody's doing now during COVID-19.
Mm.
Um, Sometimes holding a familiar object in someone's hands is reassuring. And of course, all of this is dependent on where the person is in their illness. And we're going to talk in a few minutes about a memory box. And so don't let me forget to do that,
Oh, I
Melissa.
won't.
Music is a sure bet. It's a safe bet no matter what stage of the illness the person is in. Taking a walk is great. Holding hands. I want to, circle back to that connection I talked about earlier. It's not the task. It's not the particular activity. It's making that connection with the person. And by the way, when you try to initiate an activity or a task and it's not going over well, don't insist. If you don't insist, they can't resist. I mean, sometimes I try to initiate something and it flopped. And so we just end up like sitting on the couch together and holding hands and giggling like schoolgirls. And so who cares? I
Absolutely.
found I actually found an announcement, a wedding announcement that belonged to my
Oh,
friend. And I mean, we used to look at that thing and reminisce, and we could do that for an hour. I mean, stretch things out sometimes. I mean, we really
mhm.
need to fill the days now, don't we? I mean, every day
Yes.
is like Groundhog Day, especially in our Alzheimer world. So if something goes on for a while, just let it linger. And so there's lots of things you can do to bring people to a state of contented involvement. And
Absolutely.
you
And
can
I don't want
make
to
your
harp
own
on
list.
this too long. Yeah, but I do love the story that you always tell about, I believe it was that same woman who, before her Alzheimer's, she loved to kind of keep tabs. We'll call it keeping tabs on the neighborhood. We won't call it snooping. And
It
then
was.
you
I
tell
knew
the
what you were
story
gonna
about,
say. I knew what you were gonna
yeah.
say, Melissa. I mean, it's so funny, but one of the things that my friend loved to do is just sit and stare out the window. And it made me, as a professional, feel terrible because I felt like this is not an activity, right?
Right.
But it turns out her family approved because this is something she'd done like all her life. She just was plain nosy. She loves staring out the window and keeping tabs on the whole neighborhood. So, it worked out. I mean, I let her, she sat in her recliner, stared out the window. And of course, I just couldn't leave it alone. I was out there putting birdhouses out there and wind chimes and everything. It was just dumb because really, this is what she liked to do. So here's my tip for you. Just even if you put it on a Post-it, make a list of your top 5 things that can bring your loved one to a state of contented involvement, and then keep that handy for when things get a little bit rough. If you start to see some behaviors surfacing again, activities are the way out of behaviors. They're the number one intervention. When people start to get restless, you can distract. First, you validate, and then you redirect with one of those great activities that can bring them into that state again of contented involvement where they're in that zone. Yeah.
Absolutely. Great. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit more about what we mentioned this morning, how everything can be an activity, everything should be an activity, and kind of
Sure.
reframing things that we're probably doing every day, maybe
Housework.
even multiple times a day. Yeah.
You can turn housework into it. I mean, just look at your daily routine because, chores that you're doing, especially those that include repetition, dusting, sweeping, folding laundry. Here's where you really need to let go of perfectionism because, I mean, they might do it wrong. You've got to just accept that and let them, don't let them help with meals. They can help with stirring and mixing, setting the table, all of those things around the house. really boredom is the enemy. And remember
Right.
what I said about understimulation. And so let them help, let them partner with you. And then we mentioned personal care earlier, Melissa and I both,
Hmm.
because we know that a lot of people living with Alzheimer's are adverse to bathing and showering. But I was lucky, the lady I cared for, I always reframed it. I never said it's time for a shower. I called it
Hmm.
spa day.
There you go.
And, she bought that hook, line, and sinker, especially since I said, afterwards, I'm going to give you a full body massage. Oh, she loved that. But I mean,
Mm.
because she was a person that really, I tried to do person-centered care, but she was a person that didn't have a lot of interests
Hmm.
earlier in life. So I made spa day last all day long, and we did the shower and the shampoo, and then we did the body massage, mani, pedi. I did her hair. And Melissa, I know you do your mom's hair. Tell them about that. I think you,
Yeah, so
yeah,
we had a phase, right, a number of years ago where bathing was the most difficult thing, absolutely. And I know that I'm not alone in that. Any mention of it was just the start of a, kind of disastrous encounter. And so, but I knew that my mom always loved doing her hair up nice, like curling it. And so I'd kind of started to reframe it as, we're not going to take a bath, take a shower. Can I do your hair? And she would almost never refuse if I asked her if I can curl her hair or do her hair up nice. And so, of course, in order to do that, we needed to shampoo the hair and wash the hair. And so we started to break up bathing into doing the hair and doing the rest of the bathing separately, which made that activity much more manageable for both of
yeah.
us. And so, we actually, I know you love this, we actually bought a salon chair off of Amazon a number of years ago because it was just difficult to shampoo the hair and everything in the sink without a chair that kind of allowed for that. So we did that, and then that just became our salon, our spa day, and that was really enjoyable as well for both of us. We had a lot of fun doing hair. So yes, that was definitely an activity that I grew to love.
Love,
Yeah,
lucky
absolutely.
mom. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Well,
What
for
lady
both
doesn't
ways.
like going to the beauty parlor and
Yeah,
getting your hair
absolutely.
done? That
All
is
right.
person-centered care and contingent involvement, all the things that we've been talking about. Well done, Melissa.
Hey,
That's
thanks.
lovely.
I had some
So
help.
yeah, the household tasks, and especially as I said, those ones that involve repetition. For your male, for the males, they can rake leaves or do yard work, sweeping, inside, clipping coupons, stringing beads. I don't know, brushing hair or combing hair. That just feels good. I wish somebody would do that
Absolutely.
to me. Maybe I have to train my cat. Holding towels, blowing bubbles. We have this handout you can ask for through the helpline. It's 101 things to do. We have lots of things that are available through our helpline, and we're going to give you that information at the end of this session. Finger painting, and I'll talk a little bit more in a few minutes about expressive arts. Washing and drying and polishing silverware. I mean, if you have that old silverware, everybody has that china and
Mhm.
silverware, from way back, that could take hours. About, that could be a repetitive task that could really keep someone busy and happy and contented for a long time. Playing cards, sorting things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, all kinds of things. I mean, we've got lots of handouts, lots of ideas that we can email to you. And again, as a
Yeah.
reminder, we can email you these slides as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the repetition is nice because, it kind of bypasses some of the cognitive, effort needed to do a task that might be new to somebody, but things that we've done our whole life since we were little, folding towels, folding laundry, sorting things. It can make you feel productive. It can make you feel engaged without having to overtax your mental abilities, and
Yep.
it can be kind of nice to do something that's a little bit repetitive for a time.
And I think the thing that we kind of tend to forget is that people living with Alzheimer's, a lot of times will say that they've lost their starter button, so they
Mm,
do have difficulty initiating tasks. That's why when we say
yeah.
go do XYZ, they're just kind of like, what? Um,
Hmm.
we have to sort of get them started. But once we do, they do have a great ability,
Hmm.
for repetition. So that,
Absolutely.
we call it perseverance. So they can
Yeah.
perseverate. So all we have to do is sort of sometimes get them started, and then they can go, go, go. So, let them rake the leaves, and then when they're not looking, you can, distribute them, redistribute them, and they can go again. Just, make sure they get a little rest in between, get some water. But
Sure. And they're still enjoying that
yeah,
as well. Absolutely.
repetition works. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we also talk about ideas, activities, in the sense that we like to engage all of the senses. And so we have a few slides
Yes.
here where we kind of break them up by sense. And I really love this actually, because oftentimes we think, okay, what can we do? We could do a puzzle. We could do, XYZ. We usually think of a short list of things. But when you think about broadening it to engage all of the senses, that really, I think, opens up the possibilities a lot. So
Yeah.
we'll start with touch. I love this one.
Yeah, this is great, especially, appealing to the sensory really works well at all stages, but in particular for the later stages. So,
Mhm.
you can adapt these to all stages, but we wanted to include these especially for later stages. So the tactile is great. You can experience feeling different fabrics. We were just doing this before COVID. We had a family doing this with a woman, this is person-centered, a woman who was a seamstress, and was
Perfect.
growing bored at home. So they got different fabrics and had her working with them, identifying shapes by touch, hand massages. Oh, I love that.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, who wouldn't? Brushing hair with gentle, repetitive strokes, petting something furry, visiting with animals, sculpting or finger painting, of course, using non-toxic
Yeah.
materials or whatever your ideas are. Jot down your own ideas.
Yeah. I like
Tactile.
the one about identifying shapes by touch. And I think I learned this from one of our interns back in the day, but he would put a small object into a little pouch, like a fabric pouch, and then they would play kind of like guess what that object is. So maybe it was a small
Yep.
spoon or,
Mhm.
kind of another knickknack.
Yep.
But I thought that was kind of an interesting and fun, different idea, kind of guess
Mhm.
what shape this is.
Bean bags are
Yeah.
good. Worry stones. Yep. Tactile is
Absolutely.
good. Stuffed
All right.
animal for later stage.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And pets are always nice if you can have
Uh,
a pet. I mean, that's just like top of the list for me. I think being able to.
Top of the list.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. So how about sight? We've got a lot going on here. Obviously, there's.
Yeah. So you can actually laminate pictures for people to hold and look at, pictures of things that interest them, or maybe things that map back to their earlier career or travel, maybe travel postcards. You can watch videos. Nowadays you can find so many things on the internet. Oh my gosh, you can do
Hmm.
virtual tours of museums. I love animal videos, nature, travel. I mean, there's just a plethora of things out there
Mhm.
now. Photo albums, as we've mentioned, bird watching, even if it's just out the window, hummingbird feeders, painting with watercolors. We'll mention in a few
Mhm.
minutes, memories in the making. If you can't go outdoors, and sit on the patio, at least sit by an open window together. Just anything that's visually appealing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been loving all the free streaming things that like zoos have been doing lately. I think I
Yeah.
mentioned this last month, but the Monterey Bay Aquarium is one that I know of off the top of my head, and they have live animal cams. And I've been putting up the jellyfish sometimes just as a background. It's very soothing. It's very fun to look at. But I know they have lots of other animals too, and that's been I think all the animals are enjoying not having the people around, so they're
Yeah.
doing some interesting things.
Got the penguins visiting the
Yes.
inside the aquariums, and I've been watching the baby sea otters. Yeah, it's good
Yes,
for
love
all of
it.
us.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, how about sound?
So, I mentioned already, and we all know this, music is such a hit, and it's, of course, the person-centered music, their music from their time.
Mhm.
I don't know. It just, you hear a certain song and it just takes you back, and you have those visceral memories of way back. And then there's also recordings of sounds of nature and farms or wherever you're from. You can do things with musical instruments, sound therapy. We're going to do some of that coming up in May. We're going to do brain dance.
Oh, excellent.
And it's going to include some sound therapy and some drum therapy. You can listen to things in your loved one's native language, because when people are living with Alzheimer's, they generally revert back to their original language, even if they've spoken English for many, 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 many years. You can read aloud, newspaper articles or books, even if they're not comprehending everything you're saying. They just love the sound of your wonderful voice.
Absolutely.
So those are just a few ideas with audio. Do you have anything you want to add, Melissa?
No, I mean, music for sure is always top of the list. I would make a playlist of what I knew had been my mom's favorite songs and just pop it on anytime. If we were doing the whole salon thing, washing the hair, that was always fun to sing along. If we needed kind of more relaxing music, towards in the evening hours, it was always great to it made it easy, just making a playlist and having it there. And it always, always changed the mood, no matter what. It was like never failed to just, put a smile on her face, put her at ease. I think, we forget about the power of music a lot, but I think it's, one of our number one tools, definitely. And then reading, of course, if that is something that the person enjoyed, I think like the newspaper, if that's something that was part of their routine every day before work or whatever, that's it's a really nice thing to just be able to do. Maybe not the news that's happening right now.
Maybe
everybody some good news to read.
News diet, everyone, because we've been making lots of calls to all our families, and we're hearing back from everyone that their loved ones are fixated on the news, and that's just not healthy. It's not good. Yeah.
I know how it affects me, ingesting all of this news constantly every day. And so for somebody that, has a little bit of a different perspective on what's going on in the world, and it can be definitely very, very mentally exhausting. So try to limit that for sure. All right. So moving on to smell, and obviously taste is so closely linked with smell.
Obviously, well. Yeah. So, aromatherapy is great just as long as your loved one or yourself, you're not allergic, have any allergies, but diffusers are really great. Fresh flowers, the woman I cared for just loved. We always had fresh flowers in the home. And in fact, our problem was she wouldn't let us throw them out. We had to throw them out when she was asleep.
Oh, no.
She wanted to keep them until they were like dead as a doornail. But anyway, that's another subject. But fresh flowers are great. Essential oils. Of course, you can use the fragrant lotions when you're doing your hand massages or your back rubs. But the cooking is wonderful, and of course, doing that together is a great activity. And they can always do something, they can partner with you in some small way, even if they're just with you, watching you, but they can do something. Absolutely. And, if you're baking bread, and if you're not, I cannot cook, y'all. I swear to God. I always say the best thing I make, reservations. So and you can get a bread machine or, you just buy the cookie dough. All you have to do is put it on the cookie sheet and then not burn it up. But the smell, the aroma is what we're going for. And the endorphins are leaping, and it's just a wonderful time. It's a wonderful feeling, and something you can just enjoy so much with your loved one. So, absolutely, just a few ideas.
Yeah,
we're getting a little short on time here, Melissa.
Oh, we're doing fine.
Are we okay?
Yeah, sure.
Enjoying being with all of you.
Oh yeah, me too. Here's a few more ideas. Some of these we've mentioned before, but these are kind of activities that we say engage the mind, body, and soul. Yeah. Music, dancing, we've talked about. Well, we didn't talk about dancing yet.
Oh my gosh, we were dancing last week.
That's right.
We had a little Zoom activity, and people were dancing in their living room. It's just good for the soul. The music and the dancing, moving your body, it's all good. Yeah, put your records on. Or just play your music in whatever format you have, and just get up and move. It's wonderful.
Absolutely.
Feel that closeness. That's the connection we've been talking about. Yeah. All
Absolutely.
of these things, rhythm and movement, art, for many years, our signature program at Alzheimer's Orange County has been the Memories in the Making program. I know we have Ben Allen on the line with us today, and he's the coordinator of that wonderful program. And, uh, you know, people paint from their long ago memories, and you'd be amazed at the messages that come through. And so any of the expressive arts, painting, singing, dancing, playing an instrument, reminiscence activities, exercise, all of these things are just wonderful. And
Yeah.
yeah,
We have a great,
spiritual
yes,
activities.
absolutely.
Yeah. All of these
On
things
the
to, yeah.
Yeah, no. I was just going to say on the note of exercise, we have a new blog article that came out, I think a few days ago, maybe last week, and it has tons of videos, YouTube videos. They're short, they're like 10 minutes or less. Very simple exercises you can do at home in a chair, some yoga, some dancing. So I'd encourage you to check that out. It's alzoc.org. We've got lots of nice content we're trying to get out there for everyone. So
Absolutely.
absolutely. And you'd mentioned the expressive arts. This is just kind of a little bit of list of that: painting, singing, dancing, playing an instrument, sewing, knitting. Scrapbooking can be a fun one if that's something that the person has been into before. You can find old, plane tickets from long ago and photographs. And I think
Yep.
that's kind of a neat way to create memories.
Yep. I was talking to one of our families on the phone the other day, and the care partner said, well, my wife is sitting on the couch knitting and watching old Gunsmoke episodes. And I thought, well, that sounds like contented involvement to
Sure.
me.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, we hope we've given you, some good ideas for keeping your loved one active and involved. We know it's not easy, but, we also want to make sure that, I was going to say, want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. But before we do, we had one more slide that we wanted to talk about, right? I was getting
Yes,
ahead of
let's talk
myself.
about the activity box because that's one of my favorite things.
Oh,
Absolutely. And I think
absolutely.
that's, yeah.
Absolutely. I have one here with me, but you can't really see
Oh,
it. Well,
oh,
kind of. Here
let's
it
see
is.
it.
Here it is.
All right, nice. Little activity basket.
It's an activity basket. But listen, it can be an activity box, it can be a basket, you can put it in make a little treasure chest. But the point being that you kind of fill it with those items that we were talking about earlier, that lead your loved one to
Mhm,
that state of contented involvement. And so, it could be something like I've got, a little picture book in here that a person
mhm,
can look through with photos, maybe some coloring pages, and I've got
mhm,
some colored pencils here,
yeah.
um, bubbles. I would blow some bubbles, but I'm afraid I'll blow up my computer or something.
Yeah, don't do that
Um,
yet.
you know, I don't know, just those items that we talked about, they're person-centered
Mhm,
activities. It could be playing cards. It could be in the memory box that I had for the lady that I took care of, my wonderful friend. I had a little spiral-bound notebook that I found of hers that was a travel diary from when
mm,
she and her husband toured the United States in their camper.
wow,
And she'd spend hours looking at that, and we'd reminisce about that. So fill that box with things, because you know what? This is a great thing for them to have to just keep them occupied on their own for a while, hopefully,
absolutely.
while you're sort of running around trying to do all the things that you need to do, because you need a little break too. And
Yeah.
so,
I think that's
yeah.
one of the nice things about the activity box, something you can do together, something they can probably do on their own. I had a few of these around the house that my mom would be engaged in, whether it was photos or mail. She
Right,
enjoyed kind of being occupied with sorting through things. And in the time, hopefully in the future, when we can gather together again and you can have a friend or a loved one come over, that's something that they can do. It's like a ready-made activity for them to be able to engage with someone else. Because oftentimes people just maybe don't know how to help or don't know how to engage with that person anymore as
right.
their cognitive abilities are changing. But if you have this thing that they can kind of sort through together, then that can
Yep.
be a nice way for them to connect and spend some time together. And as you said, allow you to get some just time to yourself or time to get something done. So
Yeah, and when we teach this class in person under normal times, another suggestion for when friends come over is to do the memories in the making art class.
Yes,
Have the friends and relatives when they visit do painting with your
absolutely.
loved ones.
Yeah.
So we need to find opportunities for you, the care partner, to get a little break because we need
Yeah.
you to take care of yourselves. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a couple questions. I'm going to ask one now and save one for the end. One of them
Yep.
is a jigsaw puzzle too challenging for somebody with mild to moderate cognitive impairment?
Um, well, you kind of have to test the waters, and if you do it together as a team, you kind of get them started. I think I mean, our goal, no matter what stage a person is to have the activity be failure free. We
Right.
don't want to incur frustration, so I think we just have to kind of test the waters and kind of see how it's going. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'll
we don't want it
share.
to be too babyish. It's hard when they're really
Right.
early. It's hard.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. So with puzzles, my mom really enjoyed doing puzzles. And when, in the early stages, she could do fairly complex ones. And as her, disease progressed, it became a little bit more difficult. So sometimes I would do most of the puzzle and then leave a few pieces out for her to
right.
complete. And we kind of do that. And then, we got puzzles with less pieces, bigger pieces. We created our own puzzle. You can do that at like Target, I think, or one of those websites where you can take a family photo or a cool photo and make that into a puzzle. She loved doing that puzzle. It kind of mixed the photo and the puzzle activity together. But yeah, just finding creative ways and adapting whatever activity it is. You can usually adapt it throughout the as the person's abilities change. You can find ways to adapt it, and instead of just doing away with the activity altogether, it's kind of nice to be able to preserve a little bit of that familiarity.
Right. We call that right sizing the activity.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we have some final suggestions, and then I know we'll talk a little bit about just taking care of ourselves. I love these suggestions. Helping write an autobiography, I think that's a lovely thing to do. We have some time on our hands these days, and thinking about the past and fun stories is not a bad way to spend the time.
Yeah. We were in a webinar the other day and the speaker called that the mini memoir.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to let you go through this
Sure.
one.
Yeah. Absolutely. Creating collages, magazines. That was an activity that I know personally my mom loved to go through old magazines. And so, you can cut out pictures from that. You can create collages. Having an indoor picnic or maybe a backyard picnic. That's kind of a fun way to mix up a snack or a mealtime. As we discussed, music, playing Name That Tune can be really fun, or finishing the lyrics together. Because it's amazing as other memories kind of fade away. Music just seems to be that thing that just holds on till the very end, and it's a lovely thing to have to the end. And so, I was always amazed when my mom would start singing songs that I didn't think that she would be able to remember. And again, looking through travel books, sharing favorite stories and memories. So there's no end to the activities. Again, it's just a matter of the right time and the right activity to the right person. And yeah, so I want us to wrap up by spending a little bit of time talking about self-care. And I want to address one of the other questions that we got, and that was about the news, which we touched on a little bit, and you touched on, saying that we've gotten a lot of calls lately to our helpline about people's loved ones kind of fixating on the news, focusing on
Right.
what's going on, and obviously the anxiety that we all have, I'm sure, is rubbing off on all of our loved ones as well. And so, do you have any ideas about how we can combat that a little bit?
Well, yeah, just turn it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like anything else. We just need to turn the television off and redirect into another activity. Just change the channel and watch an old movie or do some
Absolutely.
music. Just turn it off.
Yeah. And I think, not only subtraction, but substitution. That's something Teepa Snow always says. Yeah. So not just turning off the news, but everything that we've been talking about this morning. I think just finding something that engages them even more than, kind of that obsession with following what's going on, maybe finding some good news to read about or to watch. Another question was about TV and movies becoming difficult to follow. And do we have a list of suggested TV or movies that might be easier to follow? I don't know about a specific list that we have. I'd love to hear from anyone else watching out there. If they have ideas they can share with our community. I think we all benefit from everybody sharing their ideas that they've learned along the way. But I don't know if you can think of any TV or movies off the top of your head that people, have enjoyed that you've heard about.
Yeah, I can.
Oh, great.
I love Lucy.
Yes, I love Lucy. Yeah.
I've heard that so many times over the years that people just love the old sitcoms, and they do.
And that makes sense because it's a very visual show, right? Her expressions are it's like you can follow along with that show without even the sound being on, seemingly.
The slapstick comedy,
right?
And it's just, I don't know, people just constantly love that. But we've old commercials, just lots of the 50s TV.
Yeah.
Carol
Absolutely.
Albright is saying Me TV.
Me TV.
I don't know what that is.
I don't either. Carol, tell us what that is. All right. Well, do you want to go through this final ways that we can all take care of ourselves? And this is for everybody. Obviously, caregivers can experience a lot of stress,
yes,
but I know that we are all going through a lot of stress at this time as well.
Yeah. Well, we need to eat well, and I know a lot of people are saying that they're eating too much.
Yeah, no kidding. Don't need to tell me twice.
We need to eat well. We need to eat well, but we need to do those exercises that Melissa was talking about that we just sent out on email on the blog.
Yeah.
So we need to eat well and move our bodies, and then also feed our minds, as it says here. I hope everybody's sleeping well. We need to get the right amount of sleep. And we need to find ways to manage our stress. And if you're having, depression or stress, don't forget, we're going to show in the next slide that there is a caregiver support group available through our organization on Facebook. And also on the next slide, we'll show you our helpline, way to reach our helpline. We are there for you. We want to talk to you. We want to help you to manage. We know these are difficult times. It's always difficult being a caregiver, but especially during COVID-19, we want to help you with that. And so, and I want to applaud all of you for stepping up with the use of technology.
Yes.
And because that's not easy. I mean, shoot, I never heard of Zoom until, COVID-19. And now I'm in a Zoom meeting every day. And I think it's great. And so doing activities and learning and all of the ways to connect with family, FaceTiming, any way that you can find a platform to connect with others, learn and grow is great. What would you add to that, Melissa? Anything?
No, I think this is a great list. I think sleep is so important. And I've definitely had nights, in this past month where that's been very difficult. And I'm usually a pretty good sleeper. But I read some tips about sleep recently, having a cooler environment at night, especially as it gets hot these next couple weeks and maybe into summer, lowering that thermostat. That can be really, really helpful to get that sleep, turning off the electronics a couple hours beforehand, taking a warm shower or bath, an hour or so before you go to bed can help also cool your body down because it really does need to kind of cool down, turning off the lights, kind of making it a little bit more soothing environment. So all of these things, it's a great list. And it's tough to take care of ourselves, especially when we're taking care of someone else. So
absolutely.
Just know that, we're all doing the best we can. We're not going to hit it out of the park every day. But I think doing at least one small thing for yourself each day, something that brings you joy, brings you a little bit of relaxation can go a long way. So, we don't need to make crazy productive lists for ourselves necessarily during this time. We're all trying to just survive this time. So be easy on yourself and lean on others, lean on us for support. We're there. Call us, go on our Facebook, engage with us, engage with our caregiver support group, and visit our website and connect with other caregivers as well. Just find that support in our community.
We think you're doing an incredible job, and we're so proud of all of you. We really are. And
absolutely.
Oh, a couple comments have come in before we close. Laura says you can buy DVDs with the old
Oh,
sitcoms on
perfect.
them. They're great. And then Carol says that Mead TV is a cable channel that plays all of the old shows. So those
And
are
she
great
mentioned
ideas.
Turner Classic Movies, I think TCM as
Turner
well.
Classic.
Those are great
Okay.
suggestions.
And Sue, thank you for your comment, because she's mentioning that she could never come to the office anyway, COVID or not. And that's the case for so many caregivers. They're simply not able to get away. So again, thank you for availing yourself of the technology and being with us on this format today. And we wish all of you all the best. Thank you so much for tuning in today.
Yes.
It was just an honor to be with all of you.
Yep, feeling is likewise. And again, I want to thank our sponsor one more time, Villaggio at Capriana. Without their support, it would, we wouldn't be able to bring these classes to you. So go ahead and check out their website if you're interested. And we'll be back next week. We have Ben again, Mr. Yay! Ben Allen, and we're going to be talking about managing caregiver stress.
Okay.
And it's going to be great. We've been going back and forth and thinking of really fun ideas. And we also have a webinar coming up on May 13th. That's a Wednesday. And if you're interested in that, go ahead and head to our website, and you do have to RSVP for that. So it's a different format. It's a webinar, but that's going to be Dr. Miriam Galindo, who was on last week, our lovely, psychologist and social worker and nurse. She's just has so much experience to share, and she's going to be talking about caregiver resiliency. And I just know it's going to be one of my favorite webinars, and it hasn't even happened yet. So we have lots of good stuff coming out in May. So we do hope that you join us. And have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Kim.
Bye, Melissa.